Hello everyone, Mike from Stonewolf Guitars here. This is my little contribution to the Holy Couch Guitar Show, which was the Holy Grail Guitar Show before the unfortunate cancellation. So this is going to be a bit of a weird one. I'm not really used to doing videos, but we'll go with it. So what I'll be doing is going over a few of the builds that I would have taken to the show, some work in progress bits and pieces, a little workshop tour and anything else that may be interesting. So, without further ado, off we go. Right, to kick things off, we have a new Syrtis build to show you. Now the Syrtises are made using a central core, and then these wing sections are separated from the core with a free-flowing resin channel. Now on this particular one, the resin channel is dark red, with the wing sections being ebony, and the centre core being made of swamp ash with a buckeye burl top. We filled in a few little voids in the buckeye with red resin to go with the channel, and bound both the wing sections and central core with triple binding black and white binding, surprisingly enough. So hardware on this is ABM single saddles, this being a multi-scale. Pretty much find them in all of my multi-scale builds. They're very easy to use and very comfortable. The pickups are Oil City pickups, neodymium X breed. Now what that means is they are half neodymium magnets and half alnico, the bass being neodymium and the treble being alnico. Why he's done this is to have the amazing clarity of neodymium pickups, but without the ice picky top end that you tend to get. So with the alnico treble, it's got a lovely nice top end, but you still retain that really tight clear bottom as well. Absolutely amazing pickups, and you'll find them on all of my stock builds. So going up the guitar, the fretboard is Bubinga with gold Evo fret wire with little glow in the dark target inlays, a Graphtec nut and a ebony faceplate with Shala locking tuners. Again, you'll find these on pretty much all of my stock builds. They're by far the most durable and nice to use tuners that I've tried so far. And the neck itself is a pretty special bit. It's a 6,000-year-old bog oak neck with some Padouk, or Padouk, however you want to say it, strips and some white tulip wood veneer to make everything pop. Body, as I said earlier, is swamp ash, but we've done a red burst to go with the sort of red overall theme. And on all of my builds you'll have cavity covers that are magnetic, which makes for easy maintenance. Next build we have to show you is an Acara. This is one of the older builds that we have. It's about 2 years old now. It has a fabric composite top, which is an interesting thing. So the way the fabrics are worked, it is exactly as it says it is. It's fabric. It's satin sheets, black and white alternating colours, soaked in a bath of resin to form a composite block. And then I plane that and it creates these beautiful swirly patterns. So with this, it was black and white satin with just a little red ink burst around the edge. The Acaras are mainly built for comfort. They have an exaggerated arm cut out, which, while looking vaguely uncomfortable, when you sit with it and start to play it, it suddenly makes sense. Quite a few people that have played these have said they're one of the most comfortable guitars that they've ever tried, which is always nice to hear. So with this we have Oil City pickups again. These were the first neodymium pickups that we tried from them. These are all neodymium rather than the X breed, as he's calling them. ABM single saddles again. This would be a running theme through most of the multi-scale builds. With a lot of the stock I tend to stick with what I know in terms of hardware and electronics. I use what works and what has worked in the past. So the fretboard in this is a bit of a feature. It's a flamed maple and ebony with a little bit of sapele in the middle, kind of zen curvy thing, which is nice. The neck is wenge, purple heart and maple. in a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 9 piece laminate. Tuners, Acara again just because they work. So far they're the most durable tuners I've ever used. Back of the body is alder. As far as the aesthetics on this one go, it's fairly understated. There's, other than the fabric, there's not much going on in terms of resin work, but it's one of the most popular builds that we've ever done. A lot of people love this one, a lot, including me. This is one of the newest models we have. It is called the Atlas, and it's a mashing together of both the Acara and Syrtis models. It takes the Syrtis's resin channel construction with the Acara's ergonomic arm cutout. This came about because a customer of mine wanted a guitar with certain aspects of both the Syrtis and Acara, and we did some prototyping and liked it so much it became a fully fledged stock model. This one features a blue and black satin fabric composite top, much like the previous Acara. Again, ABM single saddles, Oil City pickups. Again, this is the X-Breed Neos, as far as I'm aware. The fretboard is a beautiful piece of quilted maple with resin inlays. The whole sort of theme of this one was a kind of blue to red shift. So with the resin channels in the body, you can see a gradual fade from blue to red, and the same with the inlays. And turning it over, there's a little strip down the middle, again blue into red fade on a piece of flamed roasted maple. The back, while we've got it here, is poison wood. This is otherwise known as Caribbean rosewood or Chechen. Not a true rosewood, but a beautiful wood to use nonetheless. The neck is one piece of rosewood with a blue into red faded scarf joint, and again with the headstock a little blue into red fade with the resin cutout. Hardware on this, as I said earlier, is pretty much the same as a lot of the other builds, with ABM single saddles and Acara locking tuners, gold Evo fret wire, and Graphtec nut. This is one of the last builds we have to show you today. It is a Nova. This is our take on a single cut with a pretty interesting bridge, which is an Evertune. Those of you that don't know what they are or how they work, I'll quickly go over it. Essentially, each saddle is sprung loaded and acts as its own free floating trem that accounts for anything that affects tuning stability. So things like string stretch or humidity changes, anything like that, the saddle will move and compensate for those changes. I have not actually tuned this since I built it, which was quite a few months ago, and it is absolutely bang on. It's an incredible piece of engineering. Now the interesting thing with these is you can set them up in two separate ways. You can set them so bending a note does not change the pitch, which is incredibly good for rhythm players or those that are doing kind of chuggy riffs without much bending or solo work. But you can also set them up so that they do bend. So it's a very versatile bit of kit. Essentially what's going on, I take the back plate of this, it's a big unit. Now these are an incredibly heavy install. You can retrofit these, but there's no going back. But what's going on inside there is, this is a loose Evertune saddle. So you can see there, this is the spring that loads the saddle. And the saddle will move back and forward depending on the tension. It's very cool. So that's what we've got going on in the bridge world. Pickups, Oil City again. So you'll see them on all of my stock. The fretboard is a composite of black and white tulip wood veneer ripped up into strips and all sorts of different shapes and then compressed into a resin block. So this is similar to the fabric that you saw in earlier builds, but just using wood veneer instead. It creates quite an interesting effect. I'm not sure if I'd do it again. It was frankly a pain to work with, but it was cool in the end. The back is swamp ash with a little centre strip of ebony and sapele, with a beautiful, beautiful flamed roasted maple neck with a ebony centre stripe. The tuners are Shala once again, always Shala locking on mine usually, and yeah, it's a pretty thing. The top, I should also mention, the top is a stabilised resin poplar burl. I didn't make this top was bought by, by me from Tobias Casper. If you don't know Tobias Casper, he builds amazing resin hybrid tops. Absolutely incredible bits of kit, so please go and check out his store of stuff. It's awesome.